So this is our third local digital index. As 𝗕𝗂𝗰𝗵𝗨 said, so the story began in 2020. We did a series of digital dialogues, which we planned actually before the pandemic hit, but which very much shaped our thinking and our development of the local digital index. And the reason for that was people consistently across the country, wherever we went, told us that they wanted more meeting points, more networks, and it's obviously great to be part of Birmingham Tech Week today, but also a better understanding of where best practice lies as well. Where can they look to other city regions, other parts of the country to really understand what's driving the impact of digital in their areas. So the index is very much meant to be a tool. We want people to use it. If there's something in there that prevents you from using it, come and talk to us. We have continued to iterate the index over the last couple of years. I won't sort of dwell too much on this, but it's worth reflecting. We started bringing the index together from the basis of what we call local digital capital. We identified 8 components to that. In the first 2 iterations, we only were able to measure 6 of those. This year, we've moved on to being able to measure 7 components. In the first year, we were only at sort of ITL region 1, for those of you who are familiar with that jargon. I doubt many of you are. It means the very sort of highest sort of areas of nations and regions around the UK. We're now at sort of the sub-regional, so really our counties, our cities, giving people more granular data to understand what's happening at their local level. So what does 2023 bring in terms of the index? We added a GVA figure this year, as well as looking at data ecosystems in itself. And I think that sort of really helps people understand what the index brings and the sort of the power impact of digital as well. But you're not just here to listen to me and Tech UK. We've got a fantastic lineup of speakers throughout the day. You can see sort of the list behind me. In the interest of time, I'm not going to go through the entire agenda, but suffice to say, we've got the Minister, we've got the Shadow Minister, we've got representatives from business in both the West Midlands, but also further, and of course, our partners, 𝗕𝗂𝗰𝗶 Strategy, who've been our long-standing partners over the last couple of years in putting the index together. In terms of what 2023 shows, clearly, there is success stories right across the country. In terms of the top 10 sort of sub-regionals, or counties and cities, they remain the same, although there is some movement within that top 10 list. But we can clearly start to see now that there are divides between our more rural and more coastal parts of the country and our urban areas in terms of the impact and strength of the local digital ecosystems in those areas. So a couple of the highlights. Don't worry, I'm not going to read every bit of text that is on this slide. And there is of course, these days, QR code that I'm hoping you've been able to download the report from. 1 or 2 highlights for me. We've added the GVA figure to what is already a really strong econometric model. And what is clear that if we can level up the lowest 6 regions to the UK median, we can add nearly 4.8 billion to the UK economy. And what this demonstrates is sort of what we all know, that there is a really strong linkage between the strength and ability of the local digital ecosystem to really drive economic growth across the piece. A couple of other points I'll pick out. West Midlands has really strong digital infrastructure. You can see that in terms of the 5G figures in particular, which is great to see. In digital skills, there are patches of very good work here. it's really hard in some areas, given how much we all talk about digital skills, to actually get to the data on some of this. And that is one of our big recommendations. You cannot come to a meeting in Birmingham Tech Week where skills won't be a top 3 issue, but actually the clarity of data on digital skills is really poor. And if you can't measure it, you can't understand it, and if you can't understand it, you're probably not going to design a good intervention in that piece. So there is a big focus on data throughout our report on this. Again, in terms of digital adoption, see a really good piece in terms of rising levels across a number of different regions, but there are some sort of concerns in terms of the number of overall businesses across the UK continuing to fall slightly over the last couple of years. Again, I'm not going to focus too much on finance and investment. It, unfortunately, sort of continues really to be slanted towards London and the South East. That is not to do down London and the South East, but we know that is a big driver of businesses being able to scale and being able to stay in the region that they are born from as well. So that is something, again, that we talk about at length in the report. And again, on trade, there is welcome news in terms of overall levels are rising, but the impact, again, between the highest region and the lowest has actually grown. So, a very mixed picture there. As I said, we measured data ecosystems for the first time. Really sort of interested in people's feedback in terms of how we did that. We're trying to sort of unpick the glue that brings the local tech ecosystem together. So really interested in people's feedback on that. So what? We made a number of recommendations. As I said, I think the key one for us is really about how do we ground our interventions in the local area, but also in terms of how do we get the data that we need at the local level so businesses and local authorities and policymakers can make the interventions that will really turn the dial. But what was clear this year, as it has been since we started doing this, is the opportunity is huge. So you can see that in the GBA figure that we have added this year, but there's just a wealth of optimism every time that we speak to our Nations and Regions Working Group, but also our key stakeholders around the country. The opportunity there, both for the tech sector to make investments, to access the skills, ideas, talents that are in our nations and regions, but also, of course, for those regions to benefit from being able to attract, but also grow their own tech companies, given that we know how resilient the tech sector is and how strong the link is between digital and wider economic growth. So a huge opportunity for us. Hopefully we can get into some of that in our discussions today, but it now gives me great pleasure to welcome Minister Paul Scully, Minister for Tech and Digital Economy, to the stage.
Thank you.